Yesterday, we talked about the most surprising NHL teams so far this season, and now today it's time to talk about the most surprising players. And just like in yesterday's video, we aren't just going to be focusing on teams and players that have been surprising in a good way, we're also going to be talking about guys that have been surprising in a bad way. As always, I want to know what you guys are thinking, so if there's anybody that I don't talk about in this video that have really surprised you to start the season, let me know who those players are down below in the comments. And if this is your first time checking out the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year round, hit that subscribe button. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and start this video off with a goaltender and talk about Jonas Johansson of the Tampa Bay Lightning. The biggest story surrounding the Tampa Bay Lightning heading into the season was the fact that they were going to be without their star goaltender Andrei Vasilevskiy for the first few months due to the fact that Andrei Vasilevskiy got surgery in late September. The Tampa Bay Lightning are obviously a team that are very tight to the cap and they rely heavily on Vasilevskiy when he's healthy. So this isn't a team that goes out and spends a lot on a backup goaltender because Vasilevskiy gets the majority of the starts. So with Vasilevskiy being out, that left Jonas Johansson as the Tampa Bay Lightning starting goaltender heading into the season, a guy who had spent the majority of last season in the American Hockey League for the Colorado Eagles, a guy who has a career NHL save percentage below 900. For a lot of people, including myself, this was a big concern for the Tampa Bay Lightning heading into the season. I figured at the very least Tampa Bay would still be able to stay afloat, stay at or a little bit above 500, stay in the playoff hunt while Andrei Vasilevskiy was out of the lineup, because this is a team that is still probably good enough to carry Jonas Johansson to wins. But it's actually kind of been the opposite to start the season. Jonas Johansson has actually been the one doing heavy lifting and sort of carrying Tampa Bay to wins. Johansson has started all but one game so far for the Lightning on the season. He's got a record of 4-1-3, a .922 save percentage, and a 7.3 goal saved above expected per Evolving Hockey's model, which is the second highest mark in the entire league amongst goaltenders. The Tampa Bay Lightning were probably just at the very least hoping to get serviceable goaltending out of Jonas Johansson, but he's actually been fantastic so far. If you're a Lightning fan, you got to be really happy with the way he's played. Moving along now to the next player, we have Jonathan Huberdeau of the Calgary Flames. I won't spend too much time on him because it's like beating a dead horse at this point. We talked a lot about the Calgary Flames in yesterday's video, as in my opinion, they've been one of the most disappointing teams so far. The hope and the expectation from a lot of people was that Jonathan Huberdeau would bounce back this season from a disastrous first year with the Flames last year. He set the NHL record for the largest season-to-season point drop-off in NHL history, and yet so far this season through 10 games, Jonathan Huberdeau just kind of looks average. I feel like that's the most polite way you can put things. He's got 5 points in 10 games. He's a -11. It's starting to look like this may just be what Jonathan Huberdeau is at this point. He has not fit in Calgary whatsoever, and man, that contract is looking rough, and we're only in the first year of it. Speaking of bad contracts and the Calgary Flames, the next player on my list is Nazem Kadri. I'm sorry, Flames fans, I know it probably feels like I'm piling on right now. For Nazem Kadri, last season with the Flames wasn't as disastrous as Jonathan Huberdeau's first season with the team, as Nazem Kadri was still able to put up 56 points in 82 games, which is alright for a guy that's making $7 million bucks. I mean, we all figured he would probably see a pretty big point drop off from the career year he had in Colorado before signing with the Flames, but this season has been ugly so far for Nazem Kadri. Like it's been for most players on the Calgary Flames, he's got just 1 goal through 10 games. He is a -12. The entire team really just looks lifeless at this point. If the Flames want to have any chance at all at salvaging this season, you need more from guys like Kadri and Huberdeau. It starts with them. These are the 2 highest paid forwards on the team. Moving along now to the next player on my list, we have Frank Vatrano of the Anaheim Ducks. This is a guy who's always been a sneaky good goal scorer. He's got 2 20-plus goal seasons in his career. He's scored 15 or more in 5 straight, but this season Frank Vatrano is on pace to absolutely shatter his previous career highs. In just 10 games, he's already up to 9 goals and 10 points. He is tied with Alex DeBrincat for the league lead in goals. He's averaging around 18.5 minutes of ice time per game, which is almost 2 full minutes higher than his previous career high in average ice time per game. He's playing in all situations and he's producing in all situations. He's got 5 even strength goals, 3 power play goals, and 1 shorthanded goal. That is unbelievable production for a guy who's making just $3.65 million this season and next, and whether the Ducks view him as somebody who's going to factor into their long-term plans or not, his play right now can only be looked at as a good thing. Somebody that can score goals like Frank Vatrano, and coming in at that cheap would likely net the Ducks a sizable return in a trade if they did decide to explore trading him in the future. Next up on my list of surprising players, we have Travis Sanheim of the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, Sanheim has always been a guy throughout his career with a reputation of being just a solid two-way top four defenseman, but he's never somebody that has been a legit number one defenseman for the Philadelphia Flyers. However, early on this season, he is playing exactly like that, a legit number one defenseman. Sanheim is point per game through 10 games, 7 of which have came at even strength. He is on pace to shatter his career high of 35. He's averaging over 25 and a half minutes a night. John Tortorella is using this guy in all situations, and for the most part, with Sanheim on the ice, the Philadelphia Flyers are controlling play. He is absolutely thriving right now in by far the biggest role he's ever played in his career. I would say he's definitely been the biggest bright spot for the Philadelphia Flyers so far this season. Moving along now to the next player on my list, we have Jonathan Drouin of the Colorado Avalanche. This one stings. I had high hopes for Drouin coming into this season, reuniting with Nathan MacKinnon, getting the opportunity to start the season on McKinnon's wing. If there was anywhere Jonathan Drouin was going to revitalize his career, it was going to be in Colorado, playing with Nathan MacKinnon, and it started well in the Avs' first game of the season. He played around 17 minutes, he picked up an assist in the win, but after that first game of the season, things went downhill, and they went downhill fast. His ice time continued to dip game after game until finally Jonathan Drouin was a healthy scratch in the Avalanche victory over the Blues last night. It's obviously still very early, and there is a lot of time for Drouin to make something out of this season, but if he doesn't finish the year as at least a regular in the lineup and a somewhat productive player, I honestly think this could be one of the last years we see Drouin in the NHL, which is a real shame. Continuing on now to the next player on my list, we have rookie Matty Poitras of the Boston Bruins. Let me know if I'm saying that right. I'm just saying it the way that I heard Jack Edwards saying it on the Bruins broadcast. I usually don't include rookies in these kinds of videos because obviously there's no previous sample size of them playing in the NHL to kind of base expectations off of for them coming into the season and things like that, but I'm making an exception for Matty Poitras because this is a guy that I don't think was even on anybody's radar as somebody who even had a chance to make the Boston Bruins heading into training camp. And not only did Matty Poitras make the Bruins opening night roster, he has been a really productive player for them so far through 9 games and is going to be sticking around for the entire season. He's got 5 points in 9 games. His ice time has continued to rise game after game. He continues to earn more and more trust with the Boston Bruins coaching staff. At just 19 years old, he has a very well-rounded game for a team that I would say their biggest question mark heading into the season was the center depth after Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci retired. The fact that a rookie like Matty Poitras has came in and surprised everybody and is already a very viable option in a top 9 center role has definitely been huge for Boston. Next up on my list, we have Stuart Skinner, goaltender for the Edmonton Oilers, who is a Calder Trophy finalist last year. He was fantastic, took over as the starting goaltender with Jack Campbell really struggling in his first season with the team, and once again, Jack Campbell is really struggling this season, but so far, Stuart Skinner has not been there to save the day. He's 1-2-1 through his start so far, a .863 save percentage and a negative .402 goals saved above expected. The Edmonton Oilers defense, not just the defenseman, but the team defense as a whole, gets a lot of flack, but man, the goaltending between Skinner and Campbell has not been doing them any favors either. I don't care how many goals you score, how good your power play is, how many points McDavid and Draisaitl can put up in a single season. If you have goaltending like the Oilers have gotten so far, you're not going to make the playoffs. There's a lot of things wrong with the Edmonton Oilers right now, but the goaltending especially has been a massive concern early on this season. Between both Skinner and Campbell, you hope at least one of those guys can turn things around and give the Oilers serviceable goaltending, because if they continue to play like this, it's going to be a very long year for the Oilers. Moving on now to the next player on my list, we have Alex DeBrincat of the Detroit Red Wings. Never in a million years could I have hoped for a better start to DeBrincat's career in in Detroit. After a down season last year with the Senators, just 27 goals in 82 games, a -31, which is the second worst rating on the team. I did my best to keep my expectations for DeBrincat's first season with the Wings in check. I thought there would be an adjustment period there, going to yet another new team. This would be his third team in 3 years, but so far there has been absolutely no adjustment period whatsoever in DeBrincat going from the Senators to the Wings. He's got 9 goals through 10 games, 13 total points. He is tied with Frank Vatrano for the NHL lead in goals. He's a big reason why the Red Wings power play has seen a massive improvement for a team that, heading into this season at least, was very offensively challenged. What Alex DeBrincat is doing in Detroit so far, despite the fact that he is a guy who's scored 40 plus in a season twice before, has still been surprising to me. Early on, DeBrincat and the Red Wings seem to just be a match made in heaven. Continuing on now to the next player on my list, we have Trevor Zegras of the Anaheim Ducks. Now, with the Ducks playing so well as of late, they've won 5 straight, and with so many positives on the team, there hasn't really been a lot of talk and focus on Trevor Zegras' slow start, and rightfully so. When your team's playing that well and there's so many positives, you don't just want to focus on the 1 or 2 negatives, but there's no sugarcoating the fact that Zegras has been bad to start the season. He's got just 2 points through 10 games, and Zegras is one of those guys where if he's not impacting the game offensively and putting up numbers, he's not all that impactful of a player. He doesn't have the greatest 200-foot game. I think a large part of Zegras' slow start to the season can be attributed to the fact that he did miss a good chunk of training camp, as he didn't sign his contract until I believe it was like October 2nd or 3rd, somewhere around there. Based on what we've seen from Zegras through his first 2 NHL seasons, I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to start to heat up. He's going to start producing points. Luckily for Zegras, though, amidst this slow start, there's been a lot of other guys on the Ducks picking up his slack. Guys like Pavel Mintyukov, who's been a fantastic rookie, Ryan Strome, Mason McTavish, and Frank Vatrano, who we talked about earlier in the video. Next up on my list, we have the reigning Calder Trophy winner, Matty Beniers of the Seattle Kraken. It's definitely been a struggle to start the season for the Seattle Kraken. They have been offensively challenged up until this point for the most part, and they're definitely missing Matty Beniers' production. He's yet to score through 10 games. He's got just 3 assists, and it seems like as the games go on, he's still yet to get his first goal this season. He's yet to get that monkey off his back. He's trying to overcomplicate things a little bit. He's gripping his stick too tight, and those are the kind of things that happen to players when they're going through slumps, young players especially. I mean, it's just his sophomore season. You know, it's typical for guys to go through a bit of a sophomore slump, as, you know, he can't just come in and surprise players in the league anymore like he did as a rookie. There's scouting reports now on him. There's tons of footage of him playing in the NHL. Teams now know what to expect from Matty Beniers night in and night out, and it's definitely been a little bit of an adjustment for him early on this season. He's going to be fine. Matty Beniers is definitely not a guy I would worry about. He's as dynamic of a player as it gets, but in terms of the Seattle Kraken's hopes to get back into the playoffs this year, you're definitely going to need Matty Beniers to get back to the level he was at last season. Moving along now to the next player on my list, we have Sean Durzi of the Arizona Coyotes, one of the most underrated additions of the offseason in my opinion. The Coyotes spent, I believe, one of their 1,000 second-round draft picks to acquire him from the Los Angeles Kings. Durzi is a guy who was used in Los Angeles mostly as a power play specialist. He had 38 points in 72 games. They sort of sheltered him at 5-on-5, but this season with the Coyotes, they have completely taken the chains off, and Sean Durzi is looking like a legit number 1 for the Coyotes. He's averaging the most ice time on the team by almost a full minute over the second place guy, which I believe is Matt Dumba. He's got 7 points in 9 games, 5 of which have came at even strength, which is a really nice sign. He's a +8. The Coyotes are controlling play with him on the ice. Overall, Sean Durzi has been a beast early on this season, and at just 25 years old, it's looking like Arizona has a guy that's going to be a mainstay on their blue line for a very long time. Continuing on now, next up on my list, we have Filip Gustavsson, goaltender for the Minnesota Wild, who last season was amongst the best goaltenders in the league. If he would have played more games, probably would have been a legit contender for the Vezina Trophy. He was 22-9-7, had a .931 save percentage and a 24.54 goals saved above expected. However, early on this season, it has been a complete 180 from what we saw from Filip Gustavsson last season. He's just 2-2-1, a 4.36 goals against, an .885 save percentage. Defense and goaltending for the Minnesota Wild early on this season have been a really big concern. Marc-Andre Fleury, in the games he started, he hasn't been good either. I don't think it's time to panic yet if you're a fan of the Minnesota Wild, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't kind of in the back of my mind, like, was last season just a flash in the pan for Filip Gustavsson? Because it's not like we saw him do that on multiple occasions. Last year was really his first big breakthrough, and when it comes to goaltenders, they're just so hard to predict, and you really never know what to expect. You would hope his play would kind of level out somewhere in the middle, maybe a guy who can, you know, give you around a 9-10 save percentage, not be a Vezina candidate, but at least be a solid starter. If not, the Minnesota Wild might be in trouble. And now finally, finishing out the video with the last player on my list, we have Sean Monahan of the Montreal Canadiens. He's got 5 goals, 8 points through the first 9 games of the season. He was somebody who looked really good for Montreal last season before getting injured. He had 17 points in 25 games. To think that Montreal actually got a first-round draft pick to take Sean Monahan off of the Calgary Flames' hands is pretty crazy. In Montreal, Monahan is starting to look more and more like the guy who had 5 consecutive 25-plus goal seasons from 2015 to 2019. Monahan is currently on just a 1-year deal with a cap hit of $1.985 million. This is a guy that could easily fetch Montreal another first-round pick if they explore the option of trading him around the deadline, assuming, of course, that they fall out of the playoff race by that point. If not, then you'd have to think they probably hold on to Monahan and maybe try to extend him. So that is going to wrap up today's video. Those were, in my opinion, the most surprising NHL players in both good and bad ways to start the 2023-24 NHL season. Like I said at the start, I always want to know what you guys are thinking, so if there's anybody that I didn't talk about in this video that has really surprised you so far, let me know who those players are down below. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please be sure to leave it a like. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this is your first time checking out the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year round, hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.